What's up, everyone? Wacko670 back again, and it's time for my second top 10 list. Now, this top 10 list, well, it's kind of interesting, I guess you could say, but these are my top 10 favorite sci-fi villains. Now, let me just get this right out of the way, okay? The only sci-fi franchises that I know and love are Star Trek and Star Wars. And, well, yeah, there are some other ones out there, like, you could say the Alien franchise is sci-fi, even though technically it's horror, but for me, those films are a mixture of horror and sci-fi. So there you go. Plus, well, there weren't really any villains in the Back to the Future franchise. I mean, seriously, the only main bad guy was Biff, really, and he only became a legitimate bad guy in the second film, so I'm sorry, but, well, to me, he just doesn't count as a villain. I mean, yeah, he killed someone, but that was, like, off-screen and everything, and plus, well, that led to the whole alternate timeline we got in Back to the Future Part 2, so technically, I'm sorry, Back to the Future fans, but Biff does not count, nor does Buford Mad Dog, because he didn't really kill anyone on screen. And plus, Griff from Back to the Future Part 2, well, he was just there and then he just vanished, never to be seen again or mentioned at all in the movies. So really, what's the point of even talking about him as a villain? Because he didn't really do anything evil. So really, what's the point? So, other than that, let's get right down to it. These are my top 10 favorite sci-fi villains. And starting off at number 10 is Cybok from Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Now, to me, this guy, he just didn't really seem that threatening as a villain. And that's the one thing about villains. They need to have a clear motivation for what they're doing, and they need to be actually threatening. This guy was not threatening in the slightest. The only thing that he ever accomplished was stealing the Enterprise and going to Shakari, where God is supposed to be, or something like that. But really, think about this guy's motivation. All he wants to do is to steal a starship, go to Shakari, talk with God, that's it. Seriously. How are we supposed to feel like this guy poses a threat? I mean, seriously, like, he doesn't really do anything evil. And plus, that whole take away your pain bull crap was just stupid. I mean, seriously. How am I supposed to feel threatened by this guy? I'm not. I'm just like, oh, you're just a Vulcan who has the ability to take away people's pain, blah, 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 blah. Whoop-de-freaking-do. And besides, I'm not quite sure if he was supposed to be the villain or if God was supposed to be the villain. I mean, seriously. Plus, that wasn't even God. It was supposed to be like, I don't know, some weird version of Cybok or something? What the frig was up with this movie? I'm sorry, but I hate Star Trek V. It's my least favorite film in the entire franchise. So there you go. Now, number 9. Darth Maul from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Okay, now, to be fair, I actually felt threatened when I saw this guy. I mean, seriously, that guy looked threatening and menacing. But was he the Phantom Menace? No, he wasn't. But also, you have to take into consideration that the only thing that this guy ever accomplished in doing was killing Qui-Gon Jinn. That's the only thing he did in that movie that was bad. But other than that, he barely spoke. And also, I know he's supposed to be like an underling of the evil Sith Lord Darth Sidious or whatever, but seriously, Could someone please tell me what a freaking Sith is? I mean, are they some kind of... Are they a band of evil Jedi or something? What are these people? I mean, are they some kind of species or something like that? I mean, come on. George Lucas, you needed to explain these things in the prequel films so that way we could understand these things better. Come on. But still, Darth Maul was actually not that bad of a villain, but like I said, he barely spoke. The only bad thing he did was kill Qui-Gon Jinn, and that was it. But to be fair, I did like his double-edged lightsaber. That was cool. But other than that, well, besides the fact that it actually looked menacing and threatening was pretty good, but other than that, the only thing he ever accomplished was killing Qui-Gon Jinn, and that was it. But also, in order to be a villain, you need to have a clear motivation for what you are doing and a backstory as to who you are and why you're doing these things in the first place. Do we ever find those things about Darth Maul? No, we don't. So seriously, I'm sorry, but even though this guy was menacing and threatening and had a really cool lightsaber and everything, I just I wish I knew more about him and why he's doing all these things. Seriously, I just didn't understand what his motivation and backstory was because there wasn't any! But still, let's move on. Okay, so, number 8. The Trade Federation from the Star Wars prequels. Now, I have a huge question about these guys. First of all, are they or aren't they part of the Republic? And second, if they are, then why are they imposing this blockade around Naboo when Naboo is also part of the Republic? I mean, seriously, what the frig? And also, I did not feel threatened when seeing these guys on the big screen. Come on. Well, thankfully, we didn't have to deal with these guys for much longer because, well, they pretty much, died off in Revenge of the Sith, thank God. But again, no clear motivation, and also, these guys were not all that threatening. I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel about it, okay? Thank you. Now, number 7 is Shinzon from Star Trek Nemesis. Now, before you go ranting and raging on me, Star Trek fans, let me just say this, okay? Shinzon was not that bad of a villain, okay? I understand his motivation for what he was doing, and he had a very tragic backstory. Okay, I get that. But then, near the end of the movie, he decides to kill Picard even though he needs a sample of Picard's own DNA in order to live. Plus, there was that whole procedure they kept talking about, but to be honest, I didn't know what that procedure was. I mean, what, were they gonna drain all Picard's vital fluids out so Shinzon can live long and prosper or something? What? But still, what was that? But again, what was that procedure, and also, how would it have helped Shinzon stay alive? And plus, the way he died was so anticlimactic. I mean, seriously, he got impaled by a spike. That's how he died. Seriously, I expected him to die a lot better. I mean, I don't know, just something else besides that. But now that I think about it, his death was pretty tragic, and he was a pretty tragic villain with a tragic backstory. I mean, seriously, during some points throughout the movie, I actually felt sorry for him. And that's really rare when you actually feel sorry for a villain. Usually, I feel sorry when bad things happen to the good guys, but in Shinzon's case, I truly felt sorry for him. And that is something that's really rare, and rarely do I ever feel sorry for the villains in Star Trek. That is just how awesome of a villain he was. But, I don't know. To me, he probably could have deserved a whole lot. His death could have been a whole lot better. Just like Kirk's really untimely, just like Kirk's really just really bad death in Generations. I mean, seriously? Death by bridge? Come on. I mean, seriously? That wasn't how Kirk was supposed to die in the beginning? He was supposed to be shot in the back by Soren? But no. They had to change it around and have him be killed by a bridge. Wow. But anywho, I'm getting off track here. So, number 6. Krug from Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Now, to be fair, this is the first actual main Klingon villain of the Star Trek franchise. I mean, yeah, there were some other ones, like, well, I don't know if I could consider Claw from Star Trek V a villain, but there was Chang from Star Trek VI and the Duras sisters from Generations. Okay, those were legitimate bad guys except for Claw. Well, I just thought it was kind of like a side villain. I mean, seriously, 2 villains in one movie? I just do not understand that at all. Seriously, in my humble opinion, Claw should have been the main villain, and Cyborg should just have been written out of the story completely. But still, to be fair, Krug was a very threatening villain, and I liked him. He was, well, he was a good Klingon. Well, I mean, good in the fact that he was actually threatening, and he also had a clear motivation for what he was doing. Plus, he was played by Christopher Lloyd. How awesome is that? I mean, seriously, Christopher Lloyd as a Klingon? And let's not forget the fact that Star Trek 3 came out in 1984, which is 1 year before the first Back to the Future film came out. So really? That's just awesome. I mean, seriously. For Lloyd to go from playing an evil Klingon villain in one movie to playing a time-traveling scientist in another? That's freaking awesome! I mean, seriously. That's just way cool. But, you know, for me, Krug was actually not that bad of a villain. I mean, he didn't have an actual backstory to him, but he did have a clear motivation for what he was doing and why he wanted to do it. So, really? That makes him a pretty good villain in my book. So, there you go. Okay, now, number 5. Nero from the 11th Star Trek movie. Now, this guy was threatening, and he had a clear motivation for what he was doing and why he was doing it. So here's his backstory condensed. Well, he's the captain of a mining vessel, and he saw the destruction of Romulus, which Spock did try to prevent, but unfortunately it didn't work. And in the destruction of Romulus, some weird black hole thing happened, and Nero and Spock went back in time to the past, and Nero was like, this could be a perfect opportunity for me to kill Spock so that Romulus can be saved. Ha 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 ha. But did he succeed in the end? No. But did he try? Yes. I mean, seriously. This guy got revenge on Spock in a big way. And how, you may ask? Well, by blowing up Vulcan. Seriously. That's pretty awesome. I mean, yeah, the destruction of Vulcan wasn't quite awesome in my book, but that's a really good way to take revenge on someone. Hey, you blow up my homeworld, I'm gonna blow up your homeworld. How do you like that? Oh, seriously. That's a pretty cool way to get revenge on someone if you ask me. So, yeah. And also, the dude was played by Eric Bana. Now, if you don't know who Eric Bana is, well then, I suggest you go on your computer and look him up. Because, well, he did play the Hulk in, well, one of the Hulk films, only to be replaced by what's-his-face. But, oh well. But still, Nero was not that bad of a villain. I liked him. He was, well, a tragic villain with yet another tragic backstory, just like Shinzon from Nemesis. So, really, props to you, Nero. Props to you. Okay, number 4. Oh boy. Where do I start with this one? But for me, my number 4 pick is Darth Sidious from the Star Wars films. Now, let's get something straight let's get something out of the way here, folks, okay? How did this guy become a Sith Lord? How? I mean, seriously. We barely learned anything about his backstory. And also, well, to me, he didn't feel all that threatening until he started using that whole Force lightning crap in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And yeah, he first used it in Return of the Jedi, and blah blah blah, but I don't know. I mean, he only used that thing in 2 movies. So really, what was the whole point? But still, I'm gonna give this guy a little slack because, well, he was just that awesome. But still, I do have to wonder, how is this guy Sith Lord? And also, what is a Sith? George Lucas, you should have explained this to us in The Phantom Menace. Seriously. But did you? No, you didn't. You expected to just come up with a solution on our own. Come on. Give us backstory on these people. We want to know who these people are and why they're out to kill the Jedi. Seriously. I mean, this guy's supposed to be taking revenge on the Jedi, but what for? What did the Jedi ever do to you people? What, did you suddenly turn the dark side and got expelled from the Jedi Order or something? Explain this to us! That's what you should have done in the first place! Urgh! But still, I need to stop right there. Okay, so, number 3. Darth Vader from Star Wars. Yeah, this guy was pretty awesome if you ask me. I mean, seriously, this guy was just badass. I mean, seriously, this guy was just awesome. But when you learn about who he was in the prequel films, you're like, wait, this guy used to be a kid and he wanted to be a Jedi and he fell in love and he lost the love of his life and he turned to the dark side and he got all burned up and had to live the rest of his life in a life support suit and stuff like that and then he ultimately ended up sacrificing himself in order to save his son's life and bring balance to the Force like he was originally supposed to do. I mean, I actually feel sorry for this guy. I mean, seriously. This kid was born a slave, and when he finally got his freedom, he unfortunately found out that his own mother couldn't join him, and when he finally went to free his mother, she was close to dying and died in his arms. And plus, he was in love with Padme, but unfortunately, he can't marry according to the Jedi Order. But Anakin was like, screw that, I'm going to marry her anyway, because I love her so much, and yada yada. And then Padme had twins and everything else like that, and Anakin was all happy and excited, but then he had that weird nightmare about losing Padme while she was giving birth and everything else like that. I mean, that's just horrible. I mean, seriously. And I know that sometimes Anakin can seem like an asshole at times, but seriously, when you know about his backstory in the prequel films, you kind of feel sorry for this guy. I mean, seriously, look at all the stuff that he went through. That's just horrible. Seriously. The more I think about it, the more I actually kind of like the prequel films because, well, all the stuff that all the bad stuff happened to Anakin, I mean, this guy had a tragic backstory like any other sci-fi villain ever. Wow. Seriously. That guy went through a whole lot, and look what happened to him in the end. He lost his wife, and, well... then he found out that Luke was his son and everything else like that. I mean, he was like, maybe I could turn my son to the dark side. But Luke was like, no! But still, this guy ended up dying doing what he was prophesied to do. Bring balance to the Force, and boy, howdy did he ever. And he died knowing that he fulfilled his mission, he fulfilled the prophecy, and the Force is finally and the balance of the Force is, and he finally brought balance to the Force just like he was supposed to do. Props to you, Dorothy. Props to you. Okay, well, number 2, Khan from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Okay, well, this guy is a genuinely badass villain. Plus, he was the very first Star Trek villain ever to actually appear in this show and then come back in one of the movies. Now that's awesome! I mean, seriously. Plus, Ricardo Montalban, come on. The late Ricardo Montalban, booyah. This guy delivered an amazing performance. I mean, seriously. He should have gotten an Oscar nomination for his performance in that movie. That was just so awesome. I mean, seriously. But to be fair, well, I didn't really see the episode Space Seed at all before I finally saw Star Trek 2. But from what Khan said in the movie about his backstory and everything else like that, well, I can pretty much forgive myself for the fact that I never saw Space Seed. So there you go. But still, Montalban, you rocked, dude. Khan was your best role of all time. I mean, yeah, he was in Fantasy Island. Yeah, he was in a couple Planet of the Apes films. Yes, he was in a couple Spy Kids movies. But still, Montalban delivered an amazing performance in this movie. I mean, seriously. This guy should have gotten an Oscar nomination, but sadly, I don't think he'll... But sadly, it never happened, and I just want to know why. So, here we go. Number 1, and that is the alien from the Alien movies. Oh yeah! Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking. What? The aliens can't be sci-fi villains, they're horror villains, right? No. To me, the Alien franchise is a combination of science fiction and horror. I mean, seriously, think about it. One of the things that sci-fi does best is depict what mankind's life will be like in the future, okay? Seriously, think about it. Star Trek, Star Wars, Back to the Future Part 2, and other sci-fi stuff like that. What are they good at doing? Depicting a future in which mankind will either... Well, hold on, let me rephrase that. It depicts what mankind's future will be like in a couple hundred or thousand, in a couple hundred years or so. I mean, seriously. Even some standalone films were good at doing this, like Blade Runner, as well as some shows like The Jetsons and stuff like that. I mean, seriously, think about it. Just think about that for a moment. You're not thinking about it? Okay, good. Moving on. But still, the Alien was just fantastic. I mean, seriously. H.R. Giger, you created the most perfect villain ever. But still, some people, and I know what some of you guys might be saying, well, what about all the evil corporate people from the Alien movies? I mean, what about Ash? What about Burke? And what about Bishop 2 and blah, blah, blah? Well, yeah, these guys were kind of bad guys, but they were doing those things for one reason and one reason only. Money. They were doing it for money. Well, except for Ash, who was an android, but we never learned that until like way later in the first film, so there you go. But still, these guys were just freaking awesome. I mean, seriously, the aliens are just phenomenal. I mean, seriously, look at Alien. The first film was great. It was fantastic. I loved it. Aliens. We saw so many of them. It was just like, oh man, this is awesome. And plus, the Alien Queen was freaking badass. I mean, seriously. That was just the best thing that James Cameron ever came up with for that movie. Props to you, Cameron. Props to you. So, Alien 3. We only had to deal with one alien this time, just like in the first movie. Okay. Not all that bad, but still. It looked pretty cool. And plus, that alien was not CGI. It was a rod puppet, okay? So stop bitching about how bad the CGI was, because it wasn't CGI, okay? It was a freaking rod puppet, okay? There. Now, shush. Thank you. And of course, look at the aliens and Alien Resurrection. Well, they were just kind of okay. I mean, they just look kind of eh. But still, the aliens that swam, now that was cool. That was a great idea. I liked it. I liked that particular scene from Alien Resurrection. It was fantastic. And besides, we've never seen the aliens swim before, so hey, looked pretty cool to me. And that, of course, brings us to the CGI stuff in Alien vs. Predator. Now, I have not seen Alien vs. Predator Requiem, nor will, and I highly doubt I ever will, because I've heard that movie was just not that good at all. But still, to be fair, the CGI stuff for the aliens was used when it was appropriate. I mean, seriously, looked pretty good. I especially like that whole CGI alien acid blood thing that was coming out of the one guy's tail. That looked cool. It looked awesome. But still, the aliens are just freaking awesome. And plus, I was talking about this with a friend of mine a couple days ago. Well, actually about like a week or so ago, or something like that. We were talking about how the aliens actually have kind of have some kind of weird sexual thing to them. I mean, seriously, think about it. First stage is the egg, obviously, which is laid by the queen. Second stage, a face hugger comes out of the egg, attaches itself to your face, and impregnates its host with an embryo. And ultimately, that person will give birth to a chest burster, which will eventually grow up and evolve into an alien warrior. And the way it kills someone, it's almost like it's raping that person. Now, that's pretty awesome. And for a while, I didn't really realize that at first, but the more I thought about it, I was like, huh, that's pretty awesome. I mean, seriously. But still, the aliens from the Alien franchise are some of the best villains I've ever seen. I mean, yeah, these guys don't have a backstory. Well, at least not yet. I mean, we're still waiting for that Prometheus movie to come out. Am I right, Ridley Scott? Am I? But still. And plus, these guys don't really have a motivation for killing someone. I mean, they're just monsters who ran around and killed people. That was it. And it looked awesome. But still, I do have to regret the fact that some of the deaths in AVP were just, well, some of them were off screen, and that really kind of bummed me out. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And plus, AVP had a PG-13 rating. That's just unbelievable. I mean, seriously. That film should have been rated R. But was it? No. But still, I'm just running on too much, and I should probably stop right now before I go absolutely bonkers with this. So, those are my top 10 favorite sci-fi villains, and I know what some of you are thinking. Why didn't you talk about General Chang? Why didn't you talk about Soren? Why did you talk about this villain or that villain? Blah, 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 blah. Well, the reason I didn't talk about those villains was because this is my top 10 list. This is my top 10 list, and pretty much it's my choice who's on the list and who's not on the list. So there you go. And so, till next time, this is Wacko670 saying, live long and prosper, peace out,